Hello and welcome to the Permaculture Vine podcast. My name is Cormac Harkin and we have Jason Thomas with us. Welcome back, Jason.
Thanks, Cormac. It is awesome to be chatting with you again.
And just for, we are actually live on the Vine Permaculture School at the minute. So if anybody wants to join the school, the link is in the description. You'll be hearing this as a recording. But we're going to be doing these more podcast lives. It means you get to come on, ask questions of Jason, myself. If you're on the line, just drop it in the school community and we'll pick it up there. Jason, it's been a long time. It's been a while since we've chatted.
Yeah, I was really grateful you reached out, and the few times you've reached out, I really enjoy hearing from you, and grateful that you've been keeping our relationship alive, and very happy to support you and all the stages that your work's been taking. So yeah, this is great.
Great stuff. You've been on the podcast before as an interview, but it's not an interview today. It's more about Ecovillage and Ecovillage tours. But do you want to just, for the people who haven't seen that podcast, give us a quick introduction to who you are, please?
Sure. Well, I have my own podcast called Regeneration Nation Costa Rica. I was started a few years ago. I've got 30 or so episodes, not a ton, but they're all great. I focus on projects in Costa Rica, regenerative movements, intentional communities, permaculture projects, etc. So Regeneration Nation Costa Rica is my brand, and through that, over the years, I've gotten into various other offerings. You know, I taught a community living agreements training. I hosted a regenerative business incubator for landowners. I recently held a community builders convergence where I had a dozen community builders from 9 different projects come together for a weekend to help support each other. I host mastermind programs for community seekers and community builders. Cormac, you were with us for the permaculture business design course. So basically, I had my own farm, a permaculture farm in Costa Rica for a dozen years. We hosted hundreds of people. It was a great experience. I don't live there anymore, but I live more in a regional community in Costa Rica where it's not confined by necessarily the property lines, but by a river valley that comes down out of the mountains. So my work in permaculture has gone from kind of an owner and educator on a farm level to nationwide networker, bioregional resilience, community enthusiast, and digitally, my work has progressed from just a podcaster trying to see what other landowners were doing because, the pandemic hit, and I was like, gosh, we need to do better. And I wanted to just talk to people before giving this another go. And so that opened the door for me to visit other landowners and share their stories. And my YouTube channel, definitely anyone check it out. I got a playlist for farm tour videos on there besides the podcast. I share a lot of really cool permaculture implementations, which are, especially if you live anywhere in the tropics or subtropics, it'd be very useful for you. And yeah, the opening those doors led to me teaching or hosting the regenerative business incubator for landowners. And that was an event that I had in my head and heart for many years, ever since I learned business and started seeing it through a permaculture lens. And so I just have had this dream ever since we did a permaculture assessment of our life on our farm. We hit a crash after a few years. We had a festival and it didn't go well. And so we were like, how do we have the next 3 years be better than these last 3? Because we've practiced all our ideal ideas, how would homestead and invite people and have workshops and events and stuff. And it didn't meet our goals. And so my ex-wife is a permaculture teacher. And so we pulled out the whole methodology and applied it to our life and our business, and transformed the way we hosted people and our lives. And that ever since then, I wanted more land projects to do this kind of assessment on their property, in their life, and or beyond their property, but their life and their business and how they host people, because too many permies and communitarians go into all this with just a idealist way, how often fueled by not wanting to do it the way that somebody else has done it. So they're like, I'm going to do it the contra way, rather than having really seen and studied successful outcomes in that direction. And so, yeah, we kind of rebelled until we couldn't anymore. And then we organized, and it was better. And then some years later, I studied business formally, and I saw how all the new technologies and automations and everything else was permaculture. It was stacking functions, putting effort in the beginning to save effort in the long term, having, etc. And so I decided I wanted to be a bridge between the permaculture and business world. And that's when I started with the podcast, and have evolved to the permaculture business design course you took. And now I have a new program, the Invisible Infrastructure Program, where I'm guiding teams of community builders through the development process necessary to be able to write their agreement documents, to be able to, sell shares or households, whatever their model is, to new investors in a really clear and confident way. And so it's been many years of just determination to serve this population of land stewards and community builders, and it's starting to come together. And like you mentioned, the Ecovillage tours, that's not my company personally. Ecovillage Tours is owned by Cynthia Tina, a increasingly dear friend of mine who lives in Vermont in a community there. And she was the program director for IC.org for many years, and is now, and then started her own business, Community Finders, helping people find their right spot. And I reached out to her when I saw her starting the business, just introduced myself. This little corner of the world, she's global, but I want you to know who I am. Like, I really love you. And 9 months later, she hit me up and was like, hey, I want to do these tours in Costa Rica. I got this business I kind of started before the pandemic, but I really want to get it going. So will you help me design and drive these 2 tours in January? And I said, yeah, because I won't get all the time that I've made efforts into the direction of eco tour design and driving, but this was the magic ticket. And I have a team, and they're doing tours globally. I wrote I'm also a consultant for the company. I help in other avenues, being the program director here and lead guide. Dozens of communities. Well, at this point, I think I've visited, just on the tours, about 20 different communities. Next year, we'll do 4 tours. We're going to visit 22 different cities in the country, plus 5 bioregional panel discussions over the tours. So it's really been amazing, this work with Ecovillage Tours, and the enthusiasm of the people that are loving the tours too, really fueling the success behind it. But it's pretty substantial to say that, Costa Rica is a small country, and for us to be visiting that many branded community projects in such a short period of time, it says a lot about the movement in Costa Rica and the enthusiasm moving toward whatever eco-village or community means to different people. And that's something we can talk about, this broad spectrum of what community even means to different people. But on the permaculture side of things, I really see this work pollinating ideas between, like, it was fun in the very first tour we did. I went to one of my favorite places first, that has all of these really great, they really take their community building sincerely. They're called Brave Earth. and fabulous people. And because they take their community building so sincerely, I knew that my participants would pick up a lot of ideas. And then as we went community to community, we visited 9 communities on that tour. We, or no, I'm sorry, 7. And, but I saw them take the ideas they got from that first community, and every place we went, that informed the kinds of questions they would ask at the next spot. And then they would mingle and talk. And so there's this new pollination happening among this network is building. And really, if we're going to talk about what's community, I mean, you have to look at it in all the aspects, right? A community can be a land project with a branded name and so many landowners, and they share so much shared resources and so forth. So that's legitimately a community, and you can, in that respect, buy into a community. And then there's the essence of the community. Then there's the part of the community that even if you buy into the place and you live there, it'll suck without you if you're not part of the community. And the community is the interactions. I've come to find that's why we can have an online community like your school community there. With time, y'all interacting like this, watching these programs together, asking questions together, you're going to develop relationships. And there's a sense of community. I've been part of several online communities like this, and there's really a sincere relationship and a culture. And this doesn't have to be land-based, it doesn't have to be physical interactions. Of course, communities have different benefits and influences given their aspects of physical versus digital, et cetera, how often those and of what quality, whether they're organized or chaotic, those interactions are. But I've really come to find that truly when we talk about community, the essence of it is always in the interactions. And so when that's where like decentralized community, hierarchical community become a shift in resilience, because if all the interactions are based on one person, if that person's gone or fallible, then a lot falls apart. But when that's why we favor sociocracy so much in a lot of community models or types of decentralized stuff like that, holacracy. There's a lot of models versus straight, democratic voting, because that creativity, that openness, that willingness to go deep into the interactions, the relationships is, builds resilience so that no one person can throw it all off by their absence or fallibility. So that was a lot.
Yeah. That's short.
That's a little bit what we're up to these days.
Yeah. So in terms of the sort of the tours, again, so if I book a tour, I turn up, you're there with a bus and with your team, and we go visit all these places. Is it over a course of a couple of weeks, or?
Yeah, the tours are anywhere from 9 to 12 days. This next year's tours are 9 to 11 days. And on those 9 to 11 days, the first day is just orientation at the hotel and bonding. And that's important too on these tours, is that I really make sure that there's a cultivation of community even within that short time that we're together, because adventure travel is quite an escalated evolution of relationship when you're just in this bubble moving around place to place to place, depending on everybody in this little space. We're 21 people, 18 participants, and 3 drivers and 3 vans vagabonding around Costa Rica. and it's the communities we go to, we generally get a talk about their history and their model and everything with a Q&A, and then we'll do a tour, visit some of their architecture. One of the guests told me one time, he said, "Hey Jason, this has been an amazing culinary tour. It's really been cool. We saw some communities along the way," because like the food is just dynamic. It's very delicious, organic, local, vibrant food every day, all day. Waterfalls, rivers, nature, birds all day, insects all night. It's really an exquisite time, and yet there's a lot of information. It's really in time to talk to these founders and ask them questions after question after question. And when you have the opportunity to go to 5 or 6 communities within a week or so, week and a half, your ability to compare them objectively is enhanced, and you increase your capacity for understanding nuances. And that really is beneficial, because a lot of people do a lot of their research based on websites. And honestly, these days that's even written by AI and with an SEO expert behind it. You've really got to go. Talking to salespeople on the phone can give you if you know how to ask the right questions, can be beneficial. But these tours, you're in a circle with 20 other people that are also asking questions from their own perspective. And so you really get to hear people talk about things you never thought to ask. And you're like, whoa, I never thought about that, but wow. So yeah, it's all that. It's informative, it's beautiful, it's nourishing, it's connected, it pushes people's comfort levels sometimes, long hours on a dirt road, or sleeping without air conditioning, or whatever, bugs. But they're really amazing experiences. Transformative, definitely transformative. And we have chat groups where people are still communicating a year and a half now after the trip, sharing.
Oh, class. And what type of person does this kind of tour attract?
Well, I see about 3 different types of people that join the tours. There's definitely people that are looking for a new home and they're shopping. There are other people who own land or are part of a project or want to build a project, and they're doing research. And then another third of the people are just looking for a really awesome eco vacation. And this is something they're happy to put their money towards and time.
Great stuff. Yes, you mentioned there sociocracy and democracy and that kind of the thing. How does that play out in these communities and these villages? I've done a course before on social permaculture, so we did get introduced to the sociocracy, but I was just wondering what your take on it was.
Well, my experience in sociocracy is more than the average bear, but maybe less intensively practiced than some others that could speak at length. But when we wrote our shareholding member agreements for my project, it was very sociocratic in design, having basically the idea is that I had no business having conversations about the animal husbandry on the farm. I didn't want to be part of those conversations. It just wasn't useful to have me there. So I wasn't part of the animal circle, right? I wasn't even necessarily part of the childcare circle. I helped a lot. I would take the kids around and interacted, but I wasn't part of that decision making. I just was available if needed. However, asset management, design, resources, managing teams, running volunteers, all these kinds of things. I was very involved in the doing of stuff on the farm outside of the gardens care, the animal care, the kid care. And so the sociocracy gives us the opportunity to look at the different aspects of the organization, whatever your organization is, and what needs to be decided on, and compartmentalizing those in putting people in charge of those who are naturally feeling called to be part. And in many cases, it's morphogenic. So you don't have to be stuck to that if your interests change or your availability changes. So when you have these sociocratic circles, there's often a circle lead. And if it's a large organization, a circle administrator. And so to split the responsibilities. And so I'm also part of I'm a member of the Diamante Bridge Collective, which is it's a decentralized organization of land nodes and other individuals in this bioregion of Costa Rica, the Diamante Valley. And so there's like a general circle where the team leads will come, or the circle leads will come and report monthly or whatever, what they experienced, did, need, etc. And everybody, and then there's generally with sociocracy, there's this consensus method of decision making more than a democratic vote. And I'll get to the consensus in a moment, but that there's a specific format and it's malleable. I mean, you can make, there's so many adaptations to the sociocratic organization and model, as well as the consensus aspect of it. There's just lots of adaptations. And I really like to call everything I create with my clients a living document, and they should always be revisited annually, if not more frequently, by the shareholder, by the members, to decide like, hey, is this still working for us? Should we still be going down this route? Do we need any modifications? And these governing organizational structures are definitely something that are worth revisiting to modify. But so with that, I just say that all of it's experimentation, right? It's a general concept that has precedents that can be studied, but it's ultimately an intention of dividing responsibilities and decision making into the hands of the people most enthusiastic and competent to manage, and then trusting someone to bring that information to the General Assembly to report their findings in a less frequent format for then people to vote on, and then that's where the consensus comes in. And the main thing about consensus, and you can have consensus -1, -2, etc. You can modify it, but the idea is that you're going to continue around until more than half majority, almost all people are at least willing to accept it. Even if they don't love it, they're not going to block it, right? And so you can decline, you can pass to vote. You don't have to affirm that you want this thing. But if somebody's really not into it, if multiple people are really not into whatever the proposal is, then consensus invites this method of like, okay, let's talk about it. How can we make it better? How can we, compromise is one approach, but more creatively and holistically, how can we make this even better? Right? That's really what it comes down to. And it takes time. But how can we make this so regenerative that it works for all of us? And it's not always possible, but the consensus methodology with the sociocratic focus really enhances the likelihood of a favorable result versus democratic, where half the people lose or whatever. It's just like, that's it. Does that kind of answer what you were asking there?
Yeah, no, it's all good. And so when people are coming to you with who want to set up an eco-village and want to set up a community, what are the big issues that they're having in the initial phases that they may not, that you advise them of, that they may not see?
Right. That's a really great question, Cormac. I think the something foundational in what would bring anybody to me is that it's hard work. It's long work. It's tedious. It's like, it's not just a list of 50 questions or 250 questions you can answer and then boom, you get print out a document. I mean, you can do it that way and have a document that people will be willing to agree to or not. But if you're really doing community development, you got to answer, like, there's so many things that can go wrong. And when people get into developing their community, what are you going to focus on? You're going to communicate all the things that can go right. And you just want to trust, and there's all this benevolence and all of this, which is beautiful and perfect and necessary for harmonic creation. And hey, prenuptials agreements and marriages often make divorced couples very wonderful friends because it's just clear. And then when there's an exit that's needed, it's like, okay, well, we agreed on this when we were in good terms, and I guess I signed this. So you know what? Instead of fighting and being angry and all this other stuff, I'm gonna. And it's like that with communities too. And whether it's I want to sell or we need you to leave or whatever, there's so many dynamics depending on the ownership models and so forth and the reasons. But inheritance, bringing in an elderly parent, pets. What happens when we do have conflict? Let's have an avenue for that before it happens, so that when it happens, we just open the book and be like, okay, whoa, whoa, whoa. Step one says we do this. Step two, we don't have all the answers, but we're going to do this format to describe our grievances, right? Instead of just a I hate you kind of thing. So that's what we script out in these, and it really, you got to I sit down with my clients. Well, I essentially have a series of mini worksheets that they complete before our calls, and we talk about things that come up. But it's so much. I to really do this, and it's in stages. Like our first phase, it's just about like, because we're visionaries. Right. I say we because I built a community. I didn't succeed to my highest desires, but I learned a lot, and we pretty much did a lot of it, just not to the scale. But we're visionaries, and especially my ex-wife was really just had all these ideas, and kind of my role in the relationship was grounding them into how to make them happen. Right. And it took many years before we really learned about opportunity costs and making sure you're not sacrificing something else. But that's what happens in these communities, is you got all these aspects that need attending to, and all these great ideas for how it can work, and all these models you've heard about that. And so it's like, yeah, let's do it. And then you go into it, and then it's like there's one team I'm working with, they've been meeting for not quite a year, I think, like just under a year. And they just weekly going to the land, hanging out, loving it, feeling like, yeah, making some decisions, envisioning, but not, and this is the answer to your question. People don't sit around asking themselves the hard questions. They don't ask themselves what's going to happen when their ideals fail. They don't ask, how do we, so yeah, how do we handle disagreements? How do we handle when somebody needs assistance or doesn't want to participate? And so that's what I do. I ask people a long series of questions to get their first impressions, just dump it all out. We're going to just exhaust you of every idea you could think of for how you would like it. And then we're going to see your gaps and send you on research. And so every session after they do that, then it's like, okay, here's the research to do, indicated by what you still need information on. And then in phase 2, sessions 5 through 8, we're revisiting all those topics: leadership's roles and responsibilities, your team, governance, ownership, conflict resolution, pet policies, family interactions, asset availabilities, and all these things that the lawyer needs in order to write you your bylaws, essentially, of whatever incorporation you're taking. And so a lot of people start with all the ideas of what's possible, but they don't take the time to deeply discuss and document decisions about how do we do this when we're not in agreement. And that's so crucial to really get anywhere in any reasonable amount of time with a bunch of strangers from other lands and cultures.
Yeah, I think I find the whole process very tricky. Well, because I have no patience for bureaucracy. I would end up, I'm going on my own. The one thing I did learn last year, I didn't know about, is arbitration. That when people fall out too, they can actually, instead of going to the courts, they can hire an arbiter, which is something cool that I learned. I didn't even know that existed. I thought it was a good way of going forward. But for me, I like, I suppose there's all different types of community, really. I like the thought of maybe well, you get, so like, someone's going to I think like Neil Davies on the show from Creosaw. They have a nice community, but they all own. They're all independent. They all own their own land, but they choose to trade with each other. So I think he's done like permaculture designs on their properties, and then they become suppliers for his farm to fork restaurant, and they've built a community organically, which I thought was really cool. That's probably the favorable one would be for me, because I would be independent, have my own land, but then you could choose to work with people, and then there's not these hard and fast rules set in.
Yeah, that's that model is generally structured under condominium law in Costa Rica, and I imagine other places something similar, where instead of everybody being members of a corporation that owns the land, it titles it out, but with some kind of bylaws, where there is some kind of agreement as to how to conduct. Because I'll tell you what, if there's not agreements in place, I've got a friend, we're going to visit his place on the tour. He started this Ecovillage but didn't have matter of fact, I see this frequently, where they have, even if they have something, it's very minimal, and they just want to leave it to like, people figure it out. And it really bites them years with, 5-10 years in, when they've sold a bunch of properties to a bunch of people, and half of them have expectations that it's in a community with some kind of interaction structure or shared something, anything. And then the other half are like, I don't know, I just bought a property in a place that's doing food forests and stuff. That's all I really wanted to do, is be part of something that's co-investing into some restoration, and that I can be there a few months of the year and rent it the rest. That's what I wanted to buy. And so when there's no agreement, then those two different people have different expectations. And when the one who had more expectations wants that other person to do anything, lower the brightness of the lights on their porch because it blasts the whole neighborhood, or not have so many dogs, or that are unleashed and wild in the neighborhood, or they want them to not spray some kind of crazy pesticides or whatever. If there's no agreements and it's just, I own my property and can do what I want to do, well, that's great for you, but just make sure that's what you want about your neighbor. And that's where people are like, oh yeah, I guess I do want some kind of guidelines. And so then you have to choose what places offer some kind of agreements that are within my Goldilocks zone of, the right amount of guidance without too much control or whatever.
Yeah, great stuff. So you mentioned bioregionalism there. You were getting involved with that. Do you want to talk about that for a bit?
Yeah, well, I when I was at my farm, my focus was very, very myopic, and I was really just right there, and we were in our bubble and doing our thing. And we reached out to the pueblo and the people in the region. We hosted a free permaculture course for a dozen of our neighbors. They came on the weekends brought their own lunch. It didn't cost us anything. It was just many weekends, and we just hosted it, and had a teacher come teach it in Spanish, and it was great. It was very focused on the region instead of global everything. So no, we did a lot of outreach, but we were very much in our local bubble, and we were also the only foreigners really out there, like progressive minded, permy minded people. And so we really had to push a lot of our own force to like generate a more mindful culture around us. And I mean, it's hard for us to talk to our neighbors about cutting trees and burying the soil into grass and the evaporation of an aquifer that we share. It's like, oh, it's kind of taking our water too. Even if it's on the other side of the ridge, but we can't, it's hard to have that conversation when everybody's isolated. But if you can get enough neighbors in any bioregion to come together, start mapping out who gives a damn, who has what resources, who's a leader, who has a network, and start thinking like, hey, let's do a little education campaign. Let's do a little invitation. Let's do a little community fair. Let's do a little public awareness. Let's do a little whatever it is, a little micro business, a little entrepreneurship, eco entrepreneurship. When people come together and they can strategize listening campaigns. Let's do a campaign going around to all our neighbors and learn what's important to them and what skills they have and what fears they have and what dreams they have. And if we could do that research in our village or our string of villages along this river valley, in my case, then you can start to really develop a mutual aid network where it's not outreach, it's more just start networking people who like know who's got what to offer, and empowering each other to offer their gifts in regionally beneficial ways that are supported by the bioregion. And we have all these like pandemics and economic storms coming and solar flares, who Lord knows what, peak oil, all the things that could make it really tough in life. When you're locked down for any number of reasons, being connected with your neighbors now is a good strategy while we have the technology to organize ourselves. And so when I see these eco-villages importing people to live together in an ecological way, I'm like, okay, great. Let's bring that money in. Let's invest into some regeneration. Let's, bring together those minds, like-minded people. But let's not delude ourselves into thinking we're into some gated community bubble thing, because we can't afford that in this world right now. We need to be, right now, like I know, because I consult people looking for community in Costa Rica. I give them a list of the best places depending on their alignment. And it's all like, there's an exodus happening. There's refuge. These community centers are seen by others as places of refuge, whereas the community places themselves are just trying to maybe create a home. And so, and don't necessarily realize the high quantity of people that are, want to flood in at the first catastrophe. And we saw that during the pandemic. There was a lot of people that hunkered down. So I think the bioregional thing really needs to use this power of either, whether it's an established eco-village that's reaching out and interacting with their bioregion, or just citizens like where I live, where like the Diamante Bridge Collective is a great example of some land nodes, some community projects, small kind, and then just some other individuals that live in the region, and even me that lives in the next region over, having these meetings, having these conversations, supporting these projects, bringing funding and awareness, and getting a school going, or a recycling program, or a gray water systems in the region, just as a base for people to interact. And then from there, while you get these interactions going bioregionally in networks, you can start getting in trade, like who's got what to offer, foods, handcrafts, and all of this, and services and so forth, so that we can really rely on each other more, and keep our money circulating local. This local circular economy thing is part of bioregionalism, is that our waste and our yield is all continuing to benefit as much as possible within the community before it leaves, requiring us to import less. And we really, I strongly believe, with a lot of things going on in the world right now, being tight with your bioregion is a good move.
Yeah, because I know during the pandemic, there was a YouTuber, David the Good. I think he was in Panama. And as soon as the pandemic hit, he started getting comments, basically because he was in a foreign place. So he had no community. So he was like, he flew home straight away. So I think that is good to they have that strong local connections.
Mm-hmm.
Jason, that's been great. Is there anything else you want to talk about just before we go on to the questions for the school community? We have a couple of questions in, but we'll do that after the main podcast.
No, I guess maybe I'll just wait. I have I'll just the one resource that just came up in my mind is the new book I just released. It's the Community Seekers Handbook. And so this is really rich for anybody. I'm happy to answer your questions, but I've released the whole thing for free on my website. It's a 7-part blog series, and you can buy the downloadable book for pay what you can price, just to support my work. But I've when you think about what I've learned on the Ecovillage tours, I've encapsulated as much of it as I can think of right there. So that's just something I encourage anyone to take advantage of.
Great, that's excellent. And if you give me the link there, I'll put it in the description. And did you say you have a new course coming up, or is that something you're working on at the moment?
It's not necessarily a course. It's a program, and it's this. It's called the Invisible Infrastructure Program, and it's for community developers, community teams, or individuals. Anyone starting a community. Right now, focused in Costa Rica. And I'm helping them through the development process. It's a 3 to 9 month program, depending on if they want calls once a week or every other week or need an extra week. But it's worksheet based and answering a lot of questions and research. But the end result is that I provide them the document that their lawyer needs in order to establish their community and write their bylaws and create a document that people with money are happy to sign and turn that money over in exchange for. So when it comes to onboarding new members to a new community project, this shareholding member agreements is crucial. And then from there, I also support them in creating their community living agreements, their standard operating procedures for whatever is important, and even their business model, if that is relevant for them. So these 4 pillars of the invisible infrastructure that I believe every community needs. So that's the new program that I've developed and I'm working on right now.
Great. And that's not limited to Costa Rica. That can be anywhere.
At the moment, I have my founding clients, and I'm not taking on any new clients until next year. But I believe that once I have it completed and my first client's gone through it, and after I'm complete with the 4 Ecovillage tours I'm doing in January, February, March, and April, then probably come May, I will be open to new clients, and I might be open to people outside of Costa Rica. So please contact me if you're really feeling called to this work. I will, if not be able to take you on as a full client right away, be able to support you in maybe lesser ways that could be very valuable to you. So don't hesitate to reach out if you're not in Costa Rica.
That's great, Jason. And guys, that's been the Permaculture Wine podcast. Jason, thank you very much.